Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ellie and today's video is going to be my November reading wrap up. I'm actually filming this video a few days early. It is currently the 28th. However, I'm going to be busy for the next few days and then I'm away for pretty much the first 2 weeks in December. So if I don't film this today, then I'm not going to get a chance to film it and I will not upload it within the first week of December. I am currently still reading 2 books, but I will finish them by the end of the month, so I will speak about them at the end. But so far this month has been, I think, my best reading month ever, and I'm on track to read 19 books, which is the most I've ever read in a month, so I'm really proud of myself for that. So the first book of the month was one I listened to on Audible, and that was The Veil by Rachel Harrison. This was a really short novella. I think it was about 2 hours long. This book is about Sally, who volunteers at a living history museum, and she is placed in what they call the death house, and Sally isn't really satisfied with her life, and one day while she's at work in the death house she falls asleep and she ends up waking up in this kind of alternate reality where she meets Nathaniel, and the first time it happens she just thinks she's dreaming, but she falls asleep again in the same spot because something in the back of her mind was telling her that maybe she wasn't just dreaming, and they kind of start this like back and forth relationship. As this is like a really short novella, there's not too much to it, but she is offered a new lease of life in this alternate world that she has been visiting, and she has to decide whether she is happy with what she has or if she wants to move on to this new life, or maybe if she is just enough by herself. And I really liked the ending of this one. I just thought it fitted really well, and overall I would give it 4 stars. The second book which I read this month I was actually sent, which was Wrapped in Winter by Penny Asher Dark. So I was sent an ebook copy of this book to review on Instagram, so if you want to see that post I will leave a link in the description down below. This is the first book in the Three Kings duet, and we follow Winter, and this is a wide choose romance. So she has 3 male interests: Luca, Brecken and Reuben. This is set around Christmas in a ski resort, and Winter is tasked with being the VIP host for the 3 guys whilst they stay at this hotel. This was the first ever kind of wide choose book that I have read, so I didn't really know what to expect going into this, but I did really enjoy this one. If you like spicy books then you will like this one. The 3 heroes were quite dominant and possessive over Winter, and I just overall really liked this book, and I believe I gave it a 4 out of 5. The third book of the month was another audiobook, and that was Hot Asset by Lauren Lane. This is the story of Lara and Ian. Ian works on Wall Street and is a billionaire, and Lara is sent in to investigate him as one of the firms that he previously worked for. Something happened and she's just basically sent in to investigate into him to see if he knew that the company was going to go down and if he had anything to do with it. She basically needs to prove that he is guilty so that she can move up within her role. She has this dream job with the FBI, and he is just set on proving that he is innocent. So there's this back and forth between them, but as they're trying to prove their guilt and innocence, they don't plan on actually ending up falling for each other, which inevitably they do. One thing that I really did enjoy about this book was towards the end, neither of the characters gave up anything to make this relationship work. A lot of the times a character will sacrifice in terms of one of them will move to another place, or they'll leave their job, or just give up something to make the relationship work. But in this one they both just kept doing what they wanted to do and made their relationship work around what both of them wanted, which I just thought was a really nice change. I'm going to try and get through this really quickly as there are quite a few books, but the next book I read was the first physical book of the month, and that was the Originals, The Rise. This is based on the Originals TV show, which is one of my absolute favourite TV shows. There are 3 books in this series which I received for my birthday, and I was really excited to try the first one. Now, I did enjoy this, but I was comparing the book to the TV show the entire way through, and some of the characters in this just seemed completely different to how they're portrayed in the show, which kind of ruined it for me. Klaus was just not how he is in the show. This Klaus was very laid back and in love, and then Elijah was very to the point and ready to cause trouble and ready to hurt people for his family. And I know Elijah's like that in the show, but I just felt like the brothers' personalities were completely switched within this book. Rebecca was very much like she was in her show, and I did really enjoy her chapters. This book is told from the three Michelson siblings' point of views. It would have been nice if Cole and Finn were mentioned in it as well, but it is just the three Michelsons at the time. I don't know if they are going to show up in the other two books in the series, but overall I did like it, and I think I'm going to read the next one in the series in December. Book number 5 in November was another one which I was kindly sent to review. My review for this one is to be posted on TikTok, which will be up before this video is up. So again, I'll leave a link to my TikTok down below if you want to see that version of the review. But it is Reign of Clans and Gods by Ashley Medalo. I'm not 100% sure if that's how you pronounce her surname, so I do apologise if I'm saying that wrong. This is the story of Willa. There are all these different clans that live within this world, and her sister and a guy from one of the other clans are put together in marriage, and they seem really happy. And on the wedding night, Willa meets Dempsey in the forest. They have this like immediate connection, but Willa is already like paired off with Callan, I believe his name is, that she's known since she was little, and she doesn't feel anything for Callan. She's just doing it for the sake of her family and their clan. But when she meets Dempsey, she falls for him, and I really enjoyed watching their relationship grow as the story went on. They go on this adventure, there are other characters introduced, and there were twists in this that I was 100% not expecting, and there was spice in this as well, which I don't know why, but I wasn't expecting that either. But this book kind of has everything: betrayal, spice, conflict, family. Like, I just really enjoyed this book, and the cover is absolutely beautiful too. Book number 6 was another audible listen, which was Falling for Her by Monica Murphy. This is a YA book which takes place in high school and is the story of Hannah and Jake. They are complete opposites. Hannah is kind of the shy, quiet, nerdy girl, and Jake is the popular guy on the football team. And it all starts out when his friends kind of dare him to ask her to wear his jersey for the football game, and she refuses, and no other girl in the school would refuse an offer like that. So immediately he is annoyed that she kind of rejected him. But from there they start talking, they have a class together, and they kind of just get to know each other a little better. This book was a little predictable in some points, but I feel it's just because I've read a lot of young adult romances set in high school, so you just kind of get to predict what's going to happen. But I did enjoy it overall. Then I read my third book of the month, which was sent to me for review, and that was the second book in the Three Kings duet by Penny Asher Dark, and that was Deep in Winter. Again, my review for that is up on Instagram. That actually went up this morning, so again, links down below if you want to check that out. So as this is the second book in the duet, you have to read Wrapped in Winter for Deep in Winter to make sense, but you basically continue on with their story. I can't really say too much about what happens because it will give away the ending of the first book, but they just continue to explore the dynamic of a 4-person relationship, and you get to see more of the hotel side of things, and you get to meet more characters in terms of the 4 guys' family, which I really enjoyed. The second book I did enjoy a lot more than the first one, and I did sit and read it all in one go. I would definitely recommend this duet. So the next book, I've lost count of what number this is, but it was another audible listen. I've listened to quite a few books on Audible this month. I've definitely made the most of my subscription, but that was Melt for Him by Lauren Blakely. This is a firefighter romance between Becca and Megan. Megan is Becca's best friend, little sister, so there is the forbiddenness of that trope. When they first meet, they are not aware of who each other is. They have one night together as she is just staying in town for a few weeks, so they just decide to just have a little fling while she's here. No feelings, and just see what happens, but inevitably they end up falling for each other as the story continues. Megan's brother is not best pleased. I listened to this in pretty much one go, and I did really like it. Then I read one of my most anticipated books for the year, and that was Bad Girl Reputation by Elle Kennedy. I read Good Girl Complex back in June, and it is easily one of my favourite books of the year. So when I heard about Bad Girl Reputation coming out, I immediately added it to my wish list. I believe this came out in October, and I don't know why I didn't read it straight away, but somehow I ended up waiting until November, I did really like this book. I think I still prefer Good Girl Complex over this one. This is a story of Genevieve and Evan. So Jen and Evan have a history, and she comes back to town and she wants to kind of right her wrong. She's always been seen as the bad girl. She has a reputation and she's just kind of fed up of everyone viewing her in that way, and she wants to turn that reputation around, and she feels that she cannot do that with Evan around. So she tries to push him away, but no matter how hard they try to stay apart, they just always end up finding themselves together again. I did find this book quite hard to follow at some points. There's a lot of back and forth between the two characters, which is nice because they have a clear history, but I did just find myself at times having to go back and reread little bits because I found it quite hard to follow their story. And I did really enjoy the trope in this book, and I would definitely recommend it. So then I listened to yet another audiobook, but this time it was Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton, which is his biography. I really liked this. I wanted to have this book as soon as I knew that it was coming out, but then I saw the audio version and Tom Felton himself narrates it, so I immediately downloaded it as soon as I saw it was available on Audible. So I feel like it's not right to kind of rate someone's biography because it's their life story, but I really did enjoy this, and I think it was partly because it was him narrating the story. It just added so much to it, and I felt it was really honest about some of the topics that were included in it. I wasn't really expecting some of the things that he did in his childhood, and I definitely wasn't expecting what happened towards the end. I felt it was very real and honest, and I just really enjoyed the whole thing. Then I read another physical book. I didn't really seem to pick up many physical books this month, but I went for A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. This is the story of Ren and Crew. Ren is the good girl, Crew is the bad boy, and they get paired up for a project. They are complete opposites, but eventually they get to learn more about each other and end up falling for each other. This book has quite a bit of spice in it, which I knew it had, but I didn't realise it had the amount it did, if that makes sense. But I was just gripped with this story. I read it, I think, in like 2 days, and it's quite a thick book. And I also really loved the cover of this one as well. I think it looks really nice on my shelves. But this, I believe I gave it a 5 stars. If I didn't give it 5 stars, it was a 4.5 out of 5. So then I went back to my Kindle and read another ebook, and I picked up Wrecked by Lauren Asher. This is book 3 in the Dirty Air series. I've read the first 2, and if I'm honest, this third one is my least favourite in the series so far. That's not to say I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I just didn't really connect with the character of Elena as much as I've connected or enjoyed the stories of the other characters within the series. But we follow Elena and Jax. There is a lot of mental health representation in this, which I did really enjoy, and I felt that the way it was written, as someone who has been diagnosed with anxiety, I was able to relate to Jax in that sense. But essentially, Elena is hired to kind of babysit Jax throughout the F1 season, and there's instant attraction, but neither of them really want to take that step forward because Elena doesn't want to kind of jeopardize her job, and there is a history of illness in his family, and there is a chance that he is going to carry the gene for that. So he doesn't kind of want to get involved because he thinks this illness is eventually going to take over his life, and there's not really going to be a future for the two of them, but they work around it. Yeah, I just overall really liked the representation of this book. Just the story overall is my least favourite. Then I read another ebook. This was a novella, which was The Christmas Blanket by Candy Steiner. I signed up to her newsletter, and this was just sent through as a thank you for signing up, here's a novella. So I downloaded that and I read it in one night. This is another second chance romance. I've read a few of those this month, but Eliza returns home for Christmas and she gets stranded in the snow, and River, her ex-husband, ends up rescuing her. He takes her back to the cabin that he's living in and they get snowed in. So there's the forced proximity in here as well, and they just kind of rekindle their relationship. There's some miscommunication in here as to why their relationship broke down. This is the first book that I've ever read by Candy Steiner. I know they are a very popular author and I have quite a few of their books on my wish list. It was just a cute, quick novella and I would definitely recommend picking it up. The next book I actually DNF'd. I listened to it on Audible and I think I got about 2 hours in, and just the main character just wasn't vibing with me. It's about a girl called Bethany and her mum was marrying this guy, and I think it was going to be like a forbidden relationship with one of her stepbrothers who was called Damon. But I just didn't really like the character of Bethany, and she was just annoying me a little bit, so I thought I'm just gonna put it aside and just DNF it, which I never really tend to do, but I've been getting better at it instead of forcing myself to get through books I'm not gonna like and putting myself in a slump. I just realised I completely forgot to tell you the name of the book. It was Billionaire Alpha, His Demands by Ellie Parker. So as I wasn't enjoying that one, I chose another book on Audible, and this was another kind of novella-y one. I think this was either 2 or 4 hours long, and that was the Christmas Pact. This is by Vi Keeland and Penelope Ward. This is the story of Riley Kennedy and Kennedy Riley. They both work for the same company, and their emails are always getting confused because their names are just the other ones switched around. So Riley sends an email to this agony aunt, but Kennedy gets the response, and he's basically really nosy and just reads through the email, and it really annoys Riley that he reads through her emails. So he forwards on this agony aunt's response, but he adds in his own thoughts as well, which she is not happy about. Then eventually they meet at this Christmas party, and somehow it comes around that they decide to fake date each other over the Christmas period around their families, and eventually this fake dating turns into them developing feelings for each other. I don't particularly tend to enjoy the whole fake dating trope, but I did like it in this scenario. I think it worked really well, and both of the characters of Riley and Kennedy were really likeable. Next book I read was First Semester by QB Tyler. I've been seeing this series and this author all over BookTube and Instagram, and I finally got around to reading them. Story of Skylar and Aiden. This is a fairly short book. There was a lot of spice and not really much of anything else in this story, which I didn't realise. Aiden is Skylar's professor at college. When they first meet, neither of them know that he's going to be their professor. They just have one night together, and then she goes into college, sits down in the classroom, and he's her teacher. And they try to stay away from each other, but they just can't, and inevitably they just keep stealing times together on campus. I did really like it. I just don't think I realised it wasn't much other than spice. Like, it would have been nice to have had a bit more background on the characters actually getting to know each other, but I appreciate that it is only a short book, so there wasn't really much time for any of that to happen. But if you like a spicy book, I definitely recommend this one. Then I had another Audible book. This was another Christmassy themed one, and that was Along Came Holly. This is by Cody Hall. I will admit, the last 2 hours or so I just kind of zoned out because I was a bit bored of the story, but I'd listened to it for so long. This is like a 10-hour audiobook that it felt wrong to DNF it after listening to it for so long. I did like the premise and I did enjoy it at the start, but towards the end I just kind of it wasn't doing it for me. But this was the story of Holly and Declan. They have stores side by side. Declan runs a hardware store and Holly owns this holiday store, which is all being set up for Christmas. It's the whole Grumpy Sunshine thing to start with, and they just don't get on, and then they start this prank war between the two of them. And through this prank war, they get to know each other a little better. From that, their relationship develops. I did enjoy like the first half of the story when they were kind of getting to know each other, but then I don't really know. It just, maybe my concentration wasn't there because it was an audiobook. I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it too much towards the end. If you like the trope of Grumpy Sunshine, I think you would definitely like this, and I'm not saying don't listen to this audiobook. I think it was literally just me losing concentration towards the end of the story, but it was good. Then I read another Christmassy book keeping with the theme, and that was Love Light Farms. And this book I did like, and I first want to say the cover is absolutely gorgeous of it. That was the main reason I wanted to read this book, was solely because of the cover, and I was tempted to buy the physical copy. After reading the first couple of chapters, I was really into it and I thought I might just stop and buy the physical copy, but I kept going, and to be honest, I'm quite glad I didn't buy the physical copy. It's the story of Stella and Luca. Stella owns a Christmas tree farm which is in a bit of financial trouble, so she enters a competition in which she can win some prize money, and this competition is run by this social media influencer who will feature her Christmas tree farm on her pages, which would obviously be a huge boost to Stella's business. But Stella lies on her application saying that she actually runs this farm with her boyfriend who doesn't exist. So she asks her best friend Luca if he will pretend to be her boyfriend for the duration of the social media influencer Evelyn's visit. Now from the start you can clearly see that Luca is in love with Stella, and they kind of come to this agreement that maybe they should practice their fake dating before Evelyn comes, so they feel comfortable around each other and so that they don't slip up or anything. And I found myself getting like confused at times, because one of the characters would say something and I would think, oh, so they're not fake dating anymore, like they've admitted their feelings and they are real dating now. But then it would go back to that they were fake dating, but then it seemed like they were real dating, and I just found myself getting a little confused throughout whether they both were aware that they were in love with each other. It was just a bit confusing at times, but overall I did really like the story. And the only other thing I will mention about it, I don't know if it's because I was reading it on Kindle and whether the physical book of it is different, but there were a lot of like typos as such, where things would be repeated, or like in a sentence later it would be the same sentence as the previous one, just reworded, which I found myself having to keep going back and rereading it several times to try and make sense of it. And I don't know if that was just like intentional and that's the way the writer was writing it, or whether it was just a mistake and should have been taken out, but it happened a few times in there, which kind of hindered my reading experience. But overall I did really like the story and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So we're now on to the final 2 books. So we have 2 more days left of November, so I have 2 days to finish these 2 books, which I'm completely confident I'm going to. So I'm not going to be able to give you my full opinions on these because obviously I haven't finished them, but I will leave a wrap up for both of these books on my Instagram. So again, I'll leave it in the comments down below if you want to know my thoughts. But the first book I'm partway through is Second Semester by QB Tyler. This is obviously the second book in the Campus Tale series. I am on page 50 something, there's like 188 pages, so I think I might be able to finish this one today. And so far I'm liking this more than I was first semester. But this is the story of Serena, who is the sister of Skylar from the first book, and Landon. And Landon is her dad's co-worker, so it's forbidden in that aspect. There is an age gap, and I'm really looking forward to see how this one plays out. And then the final book, which I am still reading, is Zodiac Academy book 7, Heartless Sky. I am nearly done. I'm on page 600 and something, and there's 700 pages, and I could have finished this a few weeks ago, but I'm like buddy reading this with my best friend and she's quite a bit behind at me. I've just sat and flew through this book and she's been in a bit of a slump. So I stopped this last week so that she could catch up, so we could get to the ending together. But I've told her I've got to finish it before the end of the month because I hate carrying books over. She's almost there, but I'm going to try and finish second semester today and then finish this over the last 2 days of the month, which will be perfect timing as book 8 comes out on the 12th of December. So we're getting through the series and I'm nervous about how this is going to end. That is my wrap up of all the books that I read in November, my best reading month of the year so far. As always, let me know if you have any recommendations in the comments down below, and if you've read any of these books then let me know if you thought the same or something different about them. But thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again soon.